I'm clear.
He's a 2006 graduate of the Mississippi School of Arts. Ezekiel is also the MSA Alumni Hall of Fame. He joined singer-songwriter Jasmine Murray, who's been on this program more than once, international muralist Michael Roy, and it is in Ezekiel. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning. It is early, and I am awake here in New York City.
Listen, I was watching some of your YouTube yesterday, and I've been doing this for 52, 53 years. I forgot it. But the way you warm up your vocal cords, which I'm having some bronchitis now, so got a little bit of a problem. But that's one of the things that I found fascinating, and just how everybody goes through this regimen. Whether you're a singer, whether you're on the air one way or the other, you have to warm up your vocal cords, especially in the mornings, because you're not talking to anybody during the night. But you have a special way of doing that. Can you share that with the audience?
Well, sure. I view the vocal folds, so the vocal cords are a muscle just like any other muscle. You wouldn't just go outside and run a marathon without stretching, would you?
There you go.
You tear something. So I view my vocal cords, my instrument, the same way. So usually warming up for a show or any stage performance, I started my high voice and my falsetto, and I worked my way down. Just try to work the whole register from the top all the way down. And you find any cracks and holes when you do those kind of things, and then you work your way out from there.
Tell me a little bit about who you are, because this is a first introduction for most of the people, a fellow Mississippian. I think you said you called Brookhaven still home?
I'm from Greenwood, Mississippi.
Greenwood?
Yes, Greenwood, Mississippi.
I don't know where I got Brookhaven in there, but...
Yeah, Greenwood, Mississippi is where I'm from, or I should say Itabena, Mississippi is where I'm originally from, and my parents moved to Greenwood, Mississippi just before I went to the School of the Performing Arts at MSA. So I identify Greenwood as home, but Brookhaven is kind of where I got my start on the track that I am now. So I grew up Greenwood, Mississippi. My father is a minister there, and I kind of got my start in music from him. He's a singer himself, and going to churches when I was small and being around music, I kind of got the ear for it. And in 2003, I auditioned to come out to the Mississippi School of the Arts, and it changed my life.
How about that? It is amazing, because from Itabena, you would think you would gravitate toward, like so many people, the blues, especially a hot spot of the blues historically is Itabena. But you chose a little bit different path, which is, come on, it's really very unusual for most people in the state of Mississippi, regardless of ethnicity. But how did you get into that genre of music?
It's quite funny. Before music, I've always been an artistic type of guy, and before music entered the picture, I was more into the visual arts and writing. I would always be seen drawing or writing something back home, and so music just kind of happened. I was in band, and I was in church choir and the little choirs that they had at school, but one day I dared sing a solo. And it was like, whoa, this little boy got something. I was 100 pounds soaking wet, but my voice had some size to it. And I remember my music teacher at the time, Albert Harrison, Greenwood, Mississippi, he had the guys in the choir learn a song called Old Man River. And that was a song that kind of, I was like, wow, I can make that kind of sound. I was always imitating opera singers or classical singers. We heard classical music like on the Tom and Jerry show. I didn't know what I was listening to, but my ear was being adapted to those kind of sounds. So I started imitating those sounds. And my English teacher back in 2002, 2003 said, hey, they just opened this school in Brookhaven, and I think you ought to audition to go. I think there may be some good things for you there. And so when the time came to audition, I remember one of my friends got one of those big old cameras, and I stood against a wall in my bedroom, And I said, okay, I've never done an audition before, but here goes. And so I sang Old Man River up against the wall in my bedroom and sent that tape in. And next thing I know, I was packing a bag to go there for 2 years, my junior and senior year of
Amazing.
high school.
Absolutely amazing. The road that you have traveled has taken you so many different areas now, and I know this is difficult within a confined amount of time that we have here. But Ezekiel, a little bit, because you have made it to Broadway as a performer, which is amazing. Tell me a little bit about what you're doing and what you've been doing.
Well, as we all know, the pandemic threw a wrench in everyone's plans.
Yeah. Oh, by the way,
It made us.
did that throw a wrench in your contract with the cruise people too? Because I had somebody ask me that.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes. So before the pandemic, I had just done a concert in Brookhaven at the School of the Arts. And while I was at the School of the Arts, I had just gotten word from my agent that I was awarded a contract to perform Cats on Royal Caribbean Cruise Line. And little
Hmm.
did I know, 2 weeks later, they would pull all those contracts and everybody would be at the house. And so, yes, it threw a wrench, it threw a hammer, it threw all kind of things into my plans for
Jeez.
getting out there and doing more performing. But I was able to pivot during that COVID period, and I got off into commercials and modeling and some fitness, health and fitness work, which I really grew to love and became very successful in over the pandemic period. But when the stages opened back up, I got back to it, and in August of last year, 2021, I flew out to New York for what would be my first audition in almost 18 months in New York City, and I auditioned, and then come around October, I got the call that, hey, we'd like you to join our Broadway cast of The Lion King. And so I
How
packed
about
my
that?
suitcase and my bags, and I got my behind on here to New York City to start work.
You did Rigoletto?
I did Rigoletto. That was when I was at the University of Southern Mississippi, still studying classical music and pursuing
Hmm.
opera in a sense. I was able to perform that gigantic role under the baton of J. Dean while there at University of Southern Mississippi.
Hmm. As a matter of fact, when we come back, I do have a certain soundtrack that you did that you may recognize
Oh,
in a moment or two. But I want everybody who leaves the state and goes elsewhere and does traveling is one way or the other becomes an ambassador for the state of Mississippi. And they always, when they ask you, and I found this, that if they find a Mississippian somewhere if you're in New York and they say, where are you from? Utah. Well, that's fine. Well, whenever they say you're from Mississippi, it seems to elicit a couple more questions about the state.
mhm.
Many times it's shrouded in mystery, but have you found that on your travels?
Always. If it's not, I think the first hint of you're not from here is when they hear me talk.
Yeah, of
They say,
course.
"Where are you from? Well, where were you from? Where's that accent from?" I said, "It's from Mississippi." Oh, Mississippi. So how'd you end up out here all the way from
That's
Mississippi?
it.
And here we go.
Yeah, yeah. And it fascinates me because it shows. I know when I spent some time in Chicago, it was almost like you were behind the third world, the Iron Curtain back in those days. People didn't understand how in the world an Italian guy wound up in the Mississippi Delta and grew up in Shaw, which is not too far away from
Uh-huh.
Edamina. So, but there's just so much they did not know about Mississippi, and they think it's all plantations or
Cotton
shotgun houses and
fields
cotton
and
fields, and they have no idea.
yeah, they don't
I want to spend a couple of more moments with you, if you don't mind, sir. And when we come back, a song that you did, and I think you'll recognize it. It's all coming up next with Ezekiel Andrew, Broadway performer, fellow Mississippians, now living in that spacious apartment. That's a pretty expensive apartment I'm looking at here. I don't know what the square footage is, but do you realize what kind of home you can buy for that apartment in Greenwood? I'm not preaching, I'm just telling you. Back with more coming up next.
Gets weary am sick or trying. I'm tired of living, but scared of dying. But
Ladies and gentlemen, Ezekiel Andrew. Set of pipes there. I'm not sure if you do that in the bathroom of a shower of your apartment, but it's got to resonate several floors either direction. So, one of the things that I love.
Sometimes.
Yeah, well, one of the things I love about reading up on you is that you are trying to give back in arts and education, and also you enjoy speaking to some of the young folks, because I think it does open up a totally different area for them that they've never thought about. Speak to that, Ezekiel.
Well, although I am in my 30s now, I still view myself as that kid that didn't know what I could have. The kid who wanted things but didn't know how to obtain them or go about seeking the opportunity. And if not for some very specific and key people in my life, I know I would not be here today. And even the state opening up a school and the money that legislation gives to the Mississippi School of the Arts, I'm a living testament that it goes a long way in making our state proud and making dreams come true and making a pathway for others to follow, to keep shining the light on Mississippi and the talent and the good people that come from Mississippi. So I'm a vessel for that type of work to operate through. And I want all those little black boys and girls and other kids who may feel out of place in their homes and in their hometowns, or people who have this thing and they're screaming to get out. How do I get this voice out? How do I get this art out? How do I be myself? The art school was one of those places that allowed me to do that. And wow, look what I've achieved because of that. And so I just serve as an example that, hey, when you apply yourself, you do the work, and you take advantage of every opportunity given to you, dreams do come true. They it's not just something that's unattainable or anonymous. They can actually come true, and you can be a living witness to your own dreams coming true.
Well, and that's why I loved having people like you on the air to say that. I don't know. We talk about some, because we just went through this with a Twitter war of some people bashing the state of Mississippi. They always, in liberal media, has a way of finding negatives in the state over and over and over and living in the past. And I don't think it's anybody in the state understands. You can't escape the past. We know that. But we're trying to change it, the past and look forward to the future. And I think the only way you can do that is to at least pat the people on the back that are helping that to be done, number one. Number two, and concentrate a little bit on the positive stories, not always fall back on some of the things that happened in the past. And I think that's important to do so. I want to ask you, while we got a couple of seconds here, what are you doing now? What's up? What will we see you in? What is next for Ezekiel?
Well, what is next? I just finished a weekend at the Lion King performing Mufasa. My role at the Lion King is in an ensemble, but I'm also a Mufasa understudy. So I just had a full weekend of Mufasa runs, and that, sir, was a dream come true, and I enjoyed every second of it. My teacher from the art school, Patton Rice, was there with me this weekend, and that was like the icing on the cake. To see, it was a surprise to him. I didn't tell him I was going to be Mufasa coming up on that rock this weekend, and so he was just so proud. I was glad to have him there with me. But coming up, I'm working right now on TV and film, so in the near future, I hope that you guys can see me on the episode of Law and Order.
Ooh,
so
how
we'll
about
see
that?
What happens in that regard.
Look,
but I'm working on modeling and commercial work here as well.
Well, make darn sure when that happens, you let us know so we can alert the people across the state,
I'm
okay?
from the rooftops, yes.
Ezekiel, it is a pleasure, sir. I'm glad I had the opportunity and the privilege of introducing you to this statewide audience, and please stay in touch.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for having me, Paul.